37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
Well, what's up? Welcome, everybody. This is episode 230 of Pixelated Paranormal. And this time, it really is episode 230. Now, with me, as always, of course, is Presto.
What's going on, everybody?
And returning once again from parts unknown, we've got Big Steven.
What up?
Who's chugging chocolate milk.
Ugh, gross. Not Corey.
Yeah, I know.
He loves it.
Fuck Corey. Oh, Steve, it's good to have you back, man. I feel like we got the band back together once again.
It's been a while. And glad
really
you guys holding it down. Shout out to our web host, Mark. It's awesome. Putting in the work. And thanks for doing what you guys do, holding it down while I'm away doing mostly work and exhaustion.
Yeah. But oddly enough, we're going to tie your profession into today's episode. I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet. Right now it's called Death Drivers, I think, or Death Driving.
Skirt.
But anyway, at the second half of the episode, or really probably the second quarter, we're going to actually interview you, Steve, about your profession and just some of the pitfalls and follies that have come along the way. But first, before we talk about what you do, I wanted to do a little brief dive into the history of the hearse itself. So we'll skip the pleasantries and just dive in. Now this comes from talkdeath.com, which I've summarized, but they have a lot of really great articles about just overall topics of death. So why do we call it a hearse? First of all, folks, well, a hearse, as we know, is a vehicle used to carry coffins. The name itself is derived through the French word hearse and the Latin word herpex, which to me makes it sound like a horse with an STD.
Goo.
But actually, the word herpex means harrow, a farming tool similar to a rake or a poff.
Could be
Pof.
a hoe.
And there you go. Spoiler alert, this episode is about Steven being a hoe.
Yeah.
Steve's in his hoe wagon.
These are farming tools similar to rakes or poffs. Poffs, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that. A poe.
A puff.
So how do we go from harrows to hearses? Well, around the time this etymological evolution took place, coffins were topped with a spike metal framework which would hold a candle. And it's commonly believed that because these spikes resembled that of a harrow, the word grew to refer a vehicle that transports the dead. And in a death care industry, it's more commonly referred to as a funeral coach, a title that's a bit more formal and a little less spooky. So essentially, the coffin with all its framework looked a lot like farming tools. Anyway, that out of the way. So when we jump into the history of hearses, we gotta go all the way back to the 16th century, or even before that. Back in the 1500s, we didn't have a great motorized Cadillac XTS that we have today. Instead, we had little modest metal carts called biers, which would support the weight of a coffin, which made it a little easier to transport the deceased from one place to another. Shortly after that, we entered the 17th century, and sometime in the 1600s, we evolved to the hand-pulled iron coffin cart called biers into horse-drawn carriages, which would then carry our deceased with a little more ease. The horse-drawn carriages had built-in frames that would prevent the coffin from slipping around, and more ornate designs, making the final trip into the afterlife a little more dignified. These would often have glass at the side so you could actually see the dead body that was there on its way to the graveyard, just to make sure nobody was still alive trying to escape the final ride. Now, ultimately, these earlier horse-drawn hearses were only for the incredibly wealthy, as we common folks would be stuck using more modest wooden biers and wooden carts to carry our dead to their final resting places. Fast forward again to the 1800s, and Victorian design had inspired more elaborate horse-drawn hearses, and the design becomes more elaborate with heavy influences from Victorian style of mourning. The craftsmanship was incredible, and each hearse was a work of art. Hearses were draped with heavy velvet curtains and carved with images of angels and cherubs and doves, and even more personalized decorations for those who could afford it. So as we can tell, the industry of death is all about that money.
Mm-hmm.
The largest hearse ever made in this area was in 1895. It was built by a Czech master craftsman named Václav Brosik. It was over 4 meters high, 6.5 meters long, and weighed almost 3 tons. This thing was so massive, it took 8 horses just to pull it. Now in North America, the hearses began to become a bit more less dramatic, still ornate with drapery, but with simpler carvings. This also meant they could be manufactured faster, easier, and a little cheaper, and created more access to the common man. The company called Crane Breed & Company of Cincinnati began producing metal caskets with accompanying horse-drawn hearses. Hearses would remain horse-drawn until the first decade of the 20th century, with the exception of the creation of what's known as a funeral train. Funeral trains were pretty neat. Basically, it's a train that carried not only the bodies of the deceased, but the parties and families of mourners who had come to attend the funeral service. You could literally just reserve a train to take you and your family and your loved one and have a funeral really wherever you wanted. Different classes were available for both the living and the dead, and more expensive first-class tickets would also provide a more ornate coffin and greater care for the body during transit.
Can you imagine the economy class? Like literally a wooden box, like not even shaped like a casket. It's just like here, and it's got twine around it.
I'm just picturing Weekend at Bernie's. Like you're sitting there eating your like sandwich, and your dead uncle's just next to you.
Yeah, it takes up too much room to lie them flat, so they just like prop them up in a seat.
Jesus.
3, like literally 3 to a seat, and then 1 draping over the legs.
Yeah. They put the coffin between everybody and just put a tablecloth over it.
Yeah.
And here's where you eat. I just like how it said basically the more money you spend, the better care of the body. Like, did they just grab the arms and legs and go 1, 2, 3 and just heave them into like a giant cart in the back of the train if you can't afford it? Well, let's fast forward to the 20th century, folks. The first motorized hearses were introduced in the U.S. in the early 1900s. On May 1st, 1908, the General Vehicle Company of New York built its first electric hearse. Following year, Crane and Breed introduced the first motorized, mass-produced funeral coach and dubbed it the Auto Hearse. The hearse was inspired by their horse-drawn counterparts and originally were bulky, square, with giant back ends. They had a 4-cylinder engine generating 30 horsepower and with a 3-speed transmission, man, I sound like Rainn Wilson on Cooties. Rear wheel drive, chain-driven, and went a whopping 30 miles an hour. We're going to get you there and get you fast.
Damn, you should look this up. It looks pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm going to include some pretty awesome photos of all these different coaches in the Instagram and Facebook.
The 1929 looks amazing. That's some spooky shit right there. Look at that motherfucker.
It is right before the Art Deco period as well, man. So you know it's very macabre. Straight out of fucking Tim Burton. And by the 1920s, the gas-powered engines became more popular to the general public, and funeral directors realized they could have more funerals in a day if they had a motorized vehicle. It was also during this decade that the 3-way hearse were introduced, which allowed the table in the back to rotate like a lazy Susan so the coffin could be loaded and unloaded from either side or through the back. Kind of like a turntable record player for coffins, or, if you like, spin the bottle for necrophiliacs.
Ooh.
Cadillac and Lincoln are among the most popular hearse donor vehicles in the United States. The Cadillac commercial chassis is the most popular type that's ever been used by coach builders, but was discontinued in 2019. And of course, as time and humans both progress, we now have electric hearses available to funeral homes. And of course, it's not a paranormal podcast unless we at least mention the most famous hearse from all time.
Everybody can relax. I found the car. Need some suspension work and shocks and brakes, brake pads, lining, steering box, transmission, rear end. How much? Only $4,800. Maybe new rings, also mufflers, a little wiring.
The Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters, which was a 1959 Cadillac. Here we go. Stephen, we all like to close our eyes at this point and imagine you driving through the main streets of Wichita in an old 59 black Cadillac hearse.
Dude, that'd be so sick. But unfortunately, I don't drive hearses. I've driven one hearse, which is a funny story. Right. It was probably back 2009, 10 maybe, before I moved to Wichita. I went to, I saw an ad on Facebook not Facebook. Hell, I think it might be before that. Maybe MySpace. I don't know. Anyways, there was a hearse that had popped up in Leon, Kansas. And Leon is probably 20 minutes away from El Dorado?
Yeah, it's about 20, 30 miles away.
Yeah. So we drive down there and I'm real stoked to see this. And the guy had one picture, but it was dusty and whatever. So I get there and he's got it all pulled out. And this thing has been stripped in the inside. There's no seats. You can see the actual metal and then holes were in the ground. It was a complete piece of shit, but I did run and drive. So I drove it real quick. Just cause I wanted to drive it. I wasn't going to buy it. I was just let me drive this thing. He's like, okay, cool. And, drove that. So that was fun. And then when we got back, I was I was not interested. I was like, how much were you asking for this? He's like, well, I was thinking about $500. and I was like, well, what, can you tell me about it? He's like, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to do meth and I used to cook meth out of the back of that, but I don't do that no more. So I'm just selling it because I don't want And I'm like, all right, man, I'll see you later.
Well, see you later. Killer boots, man.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Jesus.
But yeah, that was, so I've never driven a hearse. We have a couple of funeral homes that we work with that, they have some pretty nice ones, everything from the really new ones, and one of them has I think one from either the early 90s or late 80s that looks pretty cool.
That's fucking awesome.
But
so what do you drive if you don't drive a hearse?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is that people, the misconception is that when someone passes away and they have to be picked up from a morgue, coroner, home, Walmart,
right,
the highway, anything. They're always picked up by a funeral home or a mortuary service, and they're always, majority of the time, either in Dodge Caravans or Tahoe, Yukon, stuff like that.
That's wild.
They take out the back seats, the stowed seats, put it down, and they put this hard board on there with, some places have rollers and these little fasteners so you can put your gurney / cot in there and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's always minivan all the time. And still to this day, every time we go to a call where the person doesn't have hospice care, when you're in hospice care, which is a lot of the calls, the family's already been told what the step is. This is who's coming. This is the vehicle they're going to put the person in. Stuff like that. But every once in a while, you'll go to a call where, it's like a police call or something like that. And the family is fully expecting you to be there in a hearse. And when you pull up in a minivan, they are extremely confused.
Right.
Are you taking Grandma grocery shopping? What's going on?
Or they think you drive slow in school zones, if you catch my drift.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't want that.
Oh, damn. Now, before we get really any farther in this episode, we do want to give a trigger warning. I don't know exactly what your answers will be. We kind of prepared a couple questions, and I'm sure you'll have some other stories to share.
Yeah.
We've had a few people kind of write in about, the recent episodes about death. Lots of positivity, but also, some people, it did bring up some, memories of the past, losing loved ones and stuff like that. So we really ought to put a trigger warning or just a warning in general on this episode at this point. Some of the stuff we talk about could be a little triggering. Some of the stories could be a little uncomfortable. And we make bad jokes all the time on this podcast. That's a way of dealing with trauma and uncomfortable situations. So I'm sure we will be making light in certain situations. It is not out of disrespect. It is just out of awkwardness and just, dealing with the subject matter. And maybe you'll get into that a little more, Steve, with your personal experiences.
Yeah. And that's to feed off what Sean's saying is that when you work in this job, you see, first off, tomorrow's my 1-year anniversary at the job.
No shit, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, happy 1-year anniversary, brother.
Right.
Yeah. Also, Preston, happy birthday, buddy. I should have mentioned that at the top. I am an asshole.
Yeah, fuck you. It's too late.
Sorry, bro.
Technically, it's early, buddy, because you don't have a birthday for about another 2 years.
Yeah.
Touche.
We're all assholes.
Yeah. But to again, with my job, we tried to tally it up. It's kind of hard to tally it up. Probably over 1,700 bodies that I've come in contact with in 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah. Because we're a mortuary transport service. So we work with several funeral homes. We don't do funerals. We don't do meeting with the families after the fact, all that type of stuff. So we go there, pick it up, take it to where it needs to go. Pick it up, get it embalmed. Pick it up, take it to the crematory, etc. So it's a lot. It's a lot of bodies. So
you're literally a death driver, essentially.
Yeah.
What's the full professional title of what you do?
First call, death call.
Death call. Okay.
First call, death call driver.
Okay.
Most people don't say death call because it sounds grimy, but first call because you're that's the first people that come in contact with the body and the family and stuff like that.
Oh wow, yeah.
So with that many individuals picking them up, coming in contact with, I don't remember names, I don't remember faces. There's certain things that I'm going to talk about that you'll know why they stick with me. But if I laugh about it, if I seem insensitive about it, it's nothing to the individual. It's nothing to the family. I couldn't even tell you their name if I wanted to because I don't remember. Because when you are around death and bodies so often, it's all becomes a blur.
Yeah, sure.
It's really weird how your brain comes accustomed to it. So I just wanted to say that straight off the bat, some of the stuff I talk about, it could be uncomfortable. Everybody knows on this podcast, I'm kind of more non-filter-ish, stuff like that. So if I say something that offends somebody, I apologize, but this is the real world. You know what I'm saying? So there you go.
So what essentially got you started in the business of death itself then?
Well, for 15 years, about 15 years, if not 16, I worked in a field with developmentally and intellectually disabled adults. During that time, 15 years is a long time. And in that time, politics happened and a lot of changes happened to everything. It became apparent to me that the reasons why I got into that field are becoming less and less a thing. And the burnout started to sit in really bad. And not only just with job, but life as well.
Yeah.
On the brink of suicide every other week. Completely miserable and needed to make a change of work and being completely defeated from the job loss and opportunity that I had before. I was continuously trying to get a job, find something else. And I was getting so tired of never getting callbacks or going to an interview and never getting anything. And so I deleted my Indeed profile, said, fuck that, LinkedIn, all that stuff. And then on Facebook, it was the only thing that I hadn't went in. I think it's hard to delete it. Facebook, of course. It's hard to delete your job profile or whatever. So it was giving me all this. It was here's a job recommendation. And I saw mortuary transport driver. And I'm like, well, that sounds cool. Be in a car, don't have to talk to people because they're dead. I was like, that's interesting.
Right.
So I emailed or I did a little, they have your your resume on there. So I hit that. I said, hey, I have no experience in this field. Sounds interesting. Give me a call. And within like 30 minutes, the owner had messaged me on Facebook, and we talked, and they invited me down to go to an interview. The interview was extremely hilarious. We meet at this big building. It's like a unmarked building, because our crematory isn't open to the public, so we work strictly with funeral homes. So I go to this building, and it's awesome, and I get to see how the crematory retorts work, which retort is another word for furnace, and I got to see the cooler storage. At that time, that was in March of last year. It was a big time for COVID deaths and just deaths in general with the boomer generation. So they had to get another storage container, like a storage locker, like the big metal ones, like on a ship.
Yeah.
And they converted it into a cooler, and we still had bodies in there at that point. So it was really backed up. So part of the interview is like you get to be around bodies, you get to see an embalming if they have one available, stuff like that, just to see how you act, kind of like get a just observe how I respond. Which really didn't bother me at the time when I got the interview, because like I understand, and I even understand way more now, because I've been around people that have interviewed, maybe even worked, and you always know when someone's off. So that's all I'll say. But it's from going from one job, miserable, like literally dead, no pun intended, like it's terrible, and then instantly going into this field where I had never done anything in. I'm lazy, I'm overweight, I'm now I have lost weight, I can lift a lot.
Right.
I'm always on my feet, always moving. Like it's improved all these aspects of my life. My still have I still have my dark days and shit like that, but like it's completely changed my life. And it's weird that something around death can bring life back to you. You know what I mean? And luckily I've been blessed with a really, really awesome team. It's a really small team, and they're awesome. We got a bonus at Christmas. I unfortunately, you have to dress up. I can't be going to fucking death call with Pixelated Paranormal shirt on. You know what I mean? Like, so I have to.
Or could you maybe drop a business card on your way out?
Yeah, it happened to fall out. So we have to wear dress up shirts, or if we're doing a delivery, a polo, stuff like that. So like I dress better. I'm in more dress clothes more than I am my regular clothes.
Right.
It's just crazy, and we had to wear these like nice dress shoes. Well, if anybody ever wears dress shoes on an average normal basis, it sucks because they're uncomfortable as shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to the women out there that can handle that shit. It's ridiculous. Or men or whoever else is wearing these shoes, that just sucks. So I told my boss, hey, I went to my doctor, and either, I'm going to have to get some new shoes, and I ain't going to be able to wear these dress shoes no more. And they were like immediately empathetic about it. Like they were like, yo, like, what do you need? And then I was like, well, they told me to give me some websites. And so I sent them a link, and then they're like, it'll be here on Friday. Like, what? And these were not cheap, like at all. Ortho shoes are not. So yeah, that was cool. Like, it's cool to be a part of a very small group. That's a good thing and a tough thing. Because when you're that small, the rules kind of go out the window, so to speak. Sure. Of like being politically correct, and everybody knows everybody, so we bust each other's balls, like stuff like that, which is fun, but it can also cause a little bit of animosity, drama sometimes, stuff like that. And with this job, there's so much stress because of your lack of sleep. What you're seeing, you have to compartmentalize it, you have to block it out, stuff like that. So
sure, man.
But we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, that's what got me started in the business, and since then I've learned a lot. It's crazy.
I remember when you got the job, we were on the phone just kind of chatting, because like you said, like it was a pretty rough patch, and you were just day by day, rolling with the punches and whatnot. And I don't remember if you were on the phone with me when they called you to schedule the interview or you called me after the interview got scheduled. But I remember you just saying, like, dude, I applied for a job today. It's going to be for mortuary delivery, like driving dead bodies to destinations and picking them up. And you're just like, fuck it. I mean, what else do I have to offer? I mean, what other offers do I have right now for jobs?
Yeah.
And I just remember us talking like, dude, I mean, why not? Fucking go for it. And it really has been such a positive light, an otherwise pretty dark time, man. So,
Yeah.
I'm super stoked. It's nice because everyone complains about their job, but I think the positive aspects you talk about a hell of a lot more, and there's a lot more of them than the negative parts. So I'm really stoked for you. So,
and with it being, the owners have been in the business a long time, but their owned business, it's still relatively new in a business sense.
Yeah.
So they're learning. Plus, right now it's crazy. Not to mention the job market, people not wanting to work, but like the overabundance of death. And I'm going to say this right now, like not to get into COVID talk. It's not COVID bodies. It's the boomers. People have to understand the baby boom generation was and is a fucking thing, and they are passing away at an alarming rate.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's a boom. It's a boom.
Yeah.
And they're all getting to that age where they're passing, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's life and death. It's going to happen to everybody.
Dad was a baby boomer, and he was born in 1946. And if you look at the baby boom generation, it was the babies born shortly before World War II and the amount of babies born after World War II. And so when Dad died, he was 73, 74. So that means you have a whole generation, like a big chunk of America that's now like 72 to 80, 81. Like, that's a crap ton of people. Like, even back then, like, there were still a lot of farming communities and farming families. So they're having, 5, 8, 7, 10
Tons of kids.
Whereas now, like, I mean, I have my stepdaughter and I have my son. That's the extent of her.
Not to mention during that time coming back from World War II, everybody's in a bomb ass mood.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we won, we saved the day, everybody's fucking, everybody's partying.
Yeah.
The economy's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So like, they're like, fuck yeah, we're rich, we're fucking, let's get some
Yeah.
kids. Let's buy that damn car that's got 8 seats.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. And then, yeah, like you said, it's happening. And people aren't living to the age. Like, I mean, I pick up people that I'm like, well, I read their chart, 98, 99, 103. Like, I'm like, what the hell? But people these days, they don't live that long because of the things we eat, ingest, do stuff like that, I think, and breathe in,
Sure.
everything.
I had an interesting conversation earlier today with a professional healthcare provider, and she was telling me how alarmingly a lot of your millennials, it's estimated, may have a shorter lifespan than
100%.
our parents. And I it's hard for me to keep track, man. We're like, what? We're Gen Xers, Gen Zers. I don't know, but like, people our age, we will probably live, it's estimated to be around the 80s. Your millennials right now, they're estimated to be maybe having a mortality age of around 65, 70 because of simply the amount of allergies. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have gluten. What's gluten sensitivity?
Yeah.
But like, there's a
Glutes.
yeah,
all the glutes.
there's a lot of these sensitivities we're having, and like, to be honest, all jokes aside, we either didn't have a label for it or it wasn't a thing back when our parents were kids. Now, ironically, the people who are our parents' age might be the ones who created all that shit too, by cutting corners, getting cheaper ingredients, and demanding higher profits at lower costs, that kind of stuff. But
You heard.
it's interesting. Well,
And you know what's funny about that? You mentioned that. So I didn't really notice it growing up as a kid, but now that we're taking care of mom and we're back in this house, like, I don't know how you guys do things, but let's say I cook dinner, and the minute I cook dinner and we eat it and we have whatever's left over, I immediately put it in the fridge. I cover it up. I put it in like a Tupperware container. Mom won't. It's cooked, so I mean, she'll leave it out on the counter. It's fine. It's cooked. Like with her, it's like something's expired, and she's like, "Oh, honey, it's got a shelf life. That's more just like a
That's a sell-by date, Preston.
Yeah, it's just a
Suggestion.
Just you should always check it, but it's fine." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Mom, what the fuck do you have? Like the stomach of like like. It's just amazing. Like she's got like an iron gut that nothing affects her. And then I think like, my kids, like they eat one thing that like the milk spoiled or whatever, and they're like in the bathroom shitting for 5 days. And
they eat the wrong kind of fucking cheese nips, and
yeah, we're dying. And then Mom's sitting there like, it's been on the counter for 5 days, you pussy.
Yeah.
It's fine, eat it.
It's funny. Like I took food safety and stuff like that. Normally we put stuff in Tupperwares. I let it sit out for a little while, an hour or two to kind of hit, room temperature. Then I shove it in the fridge. But I will roll the dice on a fucking pan of chili I leave out any and every time. Like we'll make chili because of Shayla's schedule. Sometimes we don't eat until like 8:30 or 9. There was a night here a while back where she made a giant pot of chili and we sit down to eat it. So it came off the burner at 9 o'clock. We ate that shit. I literally came in here, recorded an episode. Episode ran late. My instructions were, before you go to bed, put the chili in the fridge. And I woke up that morning at about 5 in the morning and went in the kitchen, and son of a bitch, the fucking chili is still sitting out. Now, mind you, my kitchen's probably the coldest room in the house, and it was like 3 degrees outside. The chili was pretty fucking cold to the touch. I rolled the dice on that shit, put it in the fridge, and ate chili the rest of the week and didn't keel over, didn't die. Shayla wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole because she's like, nope, I am not going to get the shits because you're an idiot and left the chili out.
The chili.
And I wasn't about to waste fucking $25 worth of ingredients after making chili, so... Well, Steve, let's move on and let us know what's the funniest thing that's happened to you so far in this year in your profession.
So I'm just gonna tell you some stories because it's hard to tell like what's funny because something that's funny to me probably not to somebody else. So I'll just and like I said, in this job you got to have a sense of humor. And that's the funny thing is that you'll go to some of these funeral homes and you'll see somebody who like, I'm stereotyping this person, trying to size them up, whatever. And I'm like, this person's, probably got to stick up their ass. They're hardcore. They've been in this field a long time. And then they say something. You're like, whoa, okay, you're hilarious. Like I wasn't expecting that, stuff like that.
Right.
So it's
and
refreshing.
Real quick, let me say this. You don't just service the Wichita area. So to give people some anonymity, these stories aren't just about people in the city we live in. This is all over,
Yeah, I've been all over. I've been all over the state.
Okay.
Yeah. And go to Kansas City all the time. So yeah, it's everywhere. So I won't be naming no names, no funeral homes, nothing like that. So it's just completely, anonymous shit, So, anyways, during this time when you're working, you come in contact with a lot of different cultures, a lot of different walks of life. Another perk of the job, because I like people, so I like learning about that type of stuff. And what better way to see somebody's culture than how they handle their person passing on?
Yeah.
I don't want to say what ethnicity they are, but like people that practice the Buddhist monk religion. It's a common thing that when they pass away, they'll go there. The head monk will do this chant thing, and it's like a honorary thing. Well, when the body leaves the hospice care, like either the morgue or wherever it's traveling to its final destination, there's this little maroon box, and it has this chant in there. and I don't know what they're saying. I can't mimic it or anything like that, but it's very faint. But they place it right by the person's head or on their chest, and then they transport with that. So it was one of the first times I picked up somebody of that faith, and I picked them up from a hospital. Like every other call, I walked in there, got the body, got it on my cot, walked to the van. I get in the van, I'm like checking my phone, and I didn't even start the van yet, and I started hearing this sound, and I was like, "What is that?" I thought it was my phone, so I was like, "No, nothing's on." And then I was like, "Oh, it must be something outside or something." So I start driving, and then all of a sudden I keep hearing it. I'm like, "What is that sound?" And then when I get back, I'm like, "Guys, I'm hearing this sound." And that's when they let me know about that. The monk box is what we call it. But it was just so hilarious that it just caught me off guard, and I was like, "What the hell?"
So wait, like the box is like it's got a speaker in it, or what? Like it's emitting a sound? Okay.
Yeah. It's like the size of like one of them. Like, you remember the hit clip things from the 90s? Remember them little clip things? You get them like little cards you put in there. It's got a single on it. Yeah, something kind of like that. Another funny thing is just gas, like not like shit gas or burping gas, but like just the gases in a body can cause sounds from a person. So every once in a while, hearing a sound while you're driving when it's silent, and you're like, "Oh," like that, and then you laugh about it because you're like,
ghost farts.
These are 2 calls that I've done that I think are hilarious. Probably would creep people out, but I just think it's hilarious because I'm like, man, you see all walks of life. Got a call to a surrounding town close to Wichita, and it was a police call. Police call is where the police are on the scene. That doesn't mean it's violent. It doesn't mean it's anything bad. It's a person could have had a heart attack and they're on the floor after paramedics couldn't revive them. They had, anything that wouldn't be like anything suspect. So, because the coroner, if anything's suspectful, like if a teenager passes away, then obviously that's not normal. Something's off. Autopsy. Anything violent, autopsy, like stuff like that. But if it's just like, sometimes ODs are cop calls. If a person has history of mental illness, drug use, these towns can be small. You know a lot of people. The cops know this person or people. And so them calls are sometimes kind of weird because the cops will know the person, and then they're callous, they're careless with it.
Yeah.
They're tired of it. So
Sure.
it's like a relief to them. This was one of those cases. I get there, I could tell instantly by the vibe that this cop was relieved that this person was no longer on this earth.
Sure.
And but I didn't question. I wasn't going to get into all that. But yeah, so I go into this house, and I'm very observant when I go into houses. One's for safety, the other one is for measuring, because you got to is the cot going to fit in here? Are we going to have to do a carry? Stuff like that. Yeah. This individual had clearly OD'd, and his house was interesting to say the least. And we go into this room, and I'm all, like I said, my eyes are like a hawk, and I'm going everywhere. I'm looking at everything, and I noticed that he's got this. The whole house is in disarray. There's one desk in there that's perfectly, it's perfect. It's got a little, it's got some nice paint on it. It's got a little stack of DVDs. It's got a little notebook, and it's like all symmetrical and everything. I'm like, this is so awkward. Like, what? This is so out of place. And so as we're getting the body, where my coworker's getting some out of the van, I'm looking at this, and I don't touch anything. I just look, and this guy was a rapper, or so he thought. The stereotype of being obsessed with 8 Mile and rapping in the mirror, all that. And I was just laughing because these lyrics were the most funniest things ever, and I'm not going to repeat it because it's very, very, very bad. And I just thought it was crazy, because then once I seen it, I chuckled, and my coworker's like, "What?" And I was like, "Look at that paper over there. He's a rapper." And he looked at it, and he's like, "This is crazy." And then the cop comes in, and the cop's like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "Oh, we just seen some of this guy's lyrics." He's like, "You found him?" I'm like, what do you mean we found him? And I'm like, oh, everybody's been wondering like what his raps are like.
Oh no.
And I'm like, well, you didn't investigate very fucking well. It's right here on this awkwardly looking desk, and it was so
wow.
awkward. But so that's, and it's kind of funny. It's fun, like I said, funny to me.
Yeah.
Now,
did the cop grab the book and start reading the lyrics?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Cops are like.
I mean, cops are people too. All these first responders, you
for sure.
all that. They're all people, man. We're all morbidly curious.
Yeah. When you're on a call, like I come in contact with a lot of first responders, and the majority of them are pretty awesome. But shout out to first responders. Y'all are awesome. And yeah, sometimes the calls can get pretty hilarious when you work around people that work in that field. You know,
we've got a guy and I should say a couple that we met, and they were telling Preston and I stories of being first responders. One's a paramedic and one's a firefighter. And they're like, yeah, we went to this call and this guy was a cat hoarder and went inside the house, and basically the cats had eaten him after he passed away. And I think we told the story already, but generally if you have a pet and the pet eats you after you pass away, you're going to have to put the animal down because, you know, that's just taboo or whatever. Or
it's got that taste.
Yeah, some people say they get a taste and it changes, you know, their brains a little bit. And any hoozle, this guy said that, you know, he went to the house, went inside, and all these cats. And we have, of course, the doors are open because we got to carry the bodies out, and find out the cats ate this guy's face, his genitals, all the gooey bits. And his partner on the scene that day was deathly afraid of cats. Like a full-on, like, phobia. And they're just, like, talking about how they're going to get the body out. He was kind of, you know, an overweight fellow. And all of a sudden, one of the other responders is like, fuck! Guys, we left the front door open, and a couple of the cats got out. And then, you know, the police and stuff are like, you guys have to go find those the cats. We can't have, you know, all joking aside, people eating cats roaming the streets. And he said his partner was like, fuck that. Nope, I'm not fucking going after that. Cats are already fucking horrible. Cats eat people, fuck that. I will quit.
Damn.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, hats off to first responders, man. Oof.
Yeah, so the final funny thing, this is extremely creepy, so trigger warning. I just think it's hilarious because it's the only time that I've picked up somebody like that's been in this position.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
So when you know, you have, you know, like when I die, like, I want to go out this way. I want to go out that way. A lot of
delete my browser history.
yeah. A lot. Yeah. A lot of people, you know, they joke about, if I go out, I'm going to go out having sex. I'm going to go out
with a bang,
doing this, and with a bang, so to speak. And so we get this call to go pick up this person, and the person's in their bedroom. I pulled this house, and it's a pretty bad shape. The people in it aren't the best of character, so to speak, because of the way that they're talking to us and stuff like that. I'm already getting a weird vibe, but I gotta get in there and get out. So we get in there and said, okay. They're like, okay, it's in the back room. We always go and measure up the room beforehand to see our cot and stuff like this. But because of the awkwardness, I was like, let's just get in here. We'll do a carry. They say he's small, so we did not go in the room first. We go out, get the cot, bring it in the house, sit it in the front room, lower it, do everything we're supposed to do, and we head back towards the room. When we walk in the room, me and my coworker stop dead in our tracks. And the reason why is because in this guy's room, from the baseboard of the floor to the top of the ceiling, the entire ceiling, all walls in this entire room were covered in nothing but Selena Gomez pictures, murals. Like, it was like a collage, like a Trapper Keeper folder. Like, it was insane. And I'm like, and being so blown away by that, it blew my mind. I didn't even see a body. And then once like we were like unshocked by that, we were like, and then we were like, oh, the body. And then like we look in the room and there's a bed, and this guy is on the edge of the bed, like if you were sitting up, but his back on the back of the bed, his legs hanging off. The rest you already know.
Full salute. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, and so I'm like, I said to my coworker, I was like, bro, this is weird. Let's get this shit done. I mean, it was lightning fast. Boom, 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 boom. And lift him up, put him over there. As we're wrapping him in the sheet, doing what we need to do, I hear a rustle and like a shuffle in the corner. I'm like, I look up, and this room's kind of like dark, like dimly lit, like one lamp. And I look up and look over. I'm like, and I go, oh my God. And there's this dude, tall, lanky guy in shorts and a black shirt, just standing there with his arms to his side and like in this shadow, just staring at us. And I go, and then I go, what is your deal? And then he's like, are you removing the body now? I was like, and I just look at my coworkers like, let's get the fuck out of here. It was so weird. So weird. And we get a lot. I mean, like I said, you see all walks of life. So you come in some weird shit. So I guess it's funny. Like I look at it now, I'm like, damn, that was so weird, but it was funnier and shit.
I remember when you called, I think, me after that happened, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck? You're never going to believe this shit. And like, you wrap him in the sheet to kind of like protect his dignity, right? Like you don't want to walk him out of the house with what's going on down there. Yeah,
because if you can't get the cot next to the bed or couch or wherever they're at or whatever, you have to transport, either carry or do a sheet carry. We also have like a hard back thing, stuff like that. So, but most of the time they're covered in a sheet or a blanket to protect dignity and to soak up / keep body fluids together stuff like that. Yeah. So for sure.
Fuck, man. Ugh. All right.
So Steve, what's the grossest thing that's happened to you?
All right. So here we are talking about trigger warnings. I have to give myself one. This is the most insane thing that's ever happened to me. Still traumatizing to this day. And it's completely changed our calls from this incident. I'm sitting at the Old Town Warren with Shawn, Chad, a bunch of people, and my girlfriend, and we're watching one groovy movie or something like that. And like I'm really stoked, and it happened to be they were out of town, so I had to cover this shift, even though I was supposed to be off on Mondays, and I was pissed because we got this call. So I leave to go to the call, and we get to the call. We get to the cop. The cop comes in. He's like, "Hey, this is a hoarder house," which isn't. It's crazy. I hate hoarding, but like it's doable. But it also depends on what the fuck they're hoarding.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, fucking collected pee and shit. When I say this person put his piss and his shit in every single container available, I mean that. I'm talking soda cans that were cut up to put in there, laundry bottles, like them big storage bin that you buy from Walmart. Everything, cups, plates, anything that could hoard this. It was the most disgusting shit I've ever seen in my life. Add that on top of filth and hoarding trash. Everywhere you walk is an IDE. It's ridiculous.
Oh wow!
It was the smell was. I mean, it was so bad. Like we had to keep going outside, not to puke, but to just like get fresh air because we were going to pass out from the pneumonia.
Wow!
It was so
the
crazy.
Pneumonia, is that what you said? Shit.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say shit.
It was.
Yeah. Wow.
It was crazy, man. So with that, this person was also 350 pounds, and moving that through that with all that trash, it's impossible. So when you're in that situation, you have to drag a person out of their house through the trash, wade through it onto a flat piece of ground, which is usually outside. And 9 times out of 10, a hoarder is naked.
Really?
And there's nothing we can do about
sure.
it. Yep. Every hoarder I picked up has been naked. I don't know what it is, but it's just a thing. And a lot of times we have to do that. Like, you have to drag the person out because there's nowhere to load them up at. And, we do our best to give them, cover them and stuff like that, but sometimes it doesn't work. This day was miserable. I have dress pants on and dress shoes. They are completely soaking from head to toe with shit and piss. My feet and my legs are on fire from the piss. Like, I thought I was going to have an infection. Like, I went to the doctor and got tested and all this shit. And it was miserable. Like, and they were out of town on vacation, and I had enough. And like, I then, like, later that day I quit. I was like, fuck this. 'Cause and once they came back, they knew what happened. Now we don't, if we go to a call and it's something like that where we don't feel comfortable going in, we don't go in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like,
good
plain
for
simple.
you, man.
Yeah. We will pass on the call. We have that option. We have that luxury because we are a service. They call us to do their work. The funeral home don't want to do. So we have that luxury of saying, no, you do it, or call another service. So that's nice that my bosses stick up for us on that stuff. It was crazy. It is definitely the grossest thing.
Wow.
And I mean, I've been around and done some crazy calls. I noticed that that's not a question that you asked, so I'll just interject that here. And I won't get into too many details on it, but some of the calls that I've done really early in the job, they were on vacation. Crazy shit always happens when they go on vacation.
Oh, yeah. When your boss is gone, that's when shit goes down. Every time.
And in this field, and you have to get away because you have to take time for yourself. I mean, I've done more vacation-y stuff in the past year than I've done in a long time because you have to take that time. So they go on vacation a lot. And yeah, like I said, when they do, stuff happens. That call was a train call. We got coordinates. Go there and it's a train. Somebody tried to stop a train with their body. Doesn't work. So that was crazy. Seeing that very early on, seeing the evidence markers and being told you have to pick up this piece, this piece, this piece. That's wild. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen a lot, but transporting children, it sucks. Another one was a car accident out towards Leon again, Eureka area. 2 cars had been passing by on this like bridge. I after I leave the call, I don't really follow up on it and stuff like that. Usually, most of the time, they somehow had collided, and one went one way and one went the other, and one was completely fired up, like it was on fire, and you have the Beetlejuice smoking man sitting there. It's wild.
Oh, wow.
And then you have another person that's in 2, and they told me to bring 2 body bags, so I thought I was picking up 2 people, but I'm like, the call only said 1 name. That tells you what you need to know, and that's like at 3 a.m. in the morning. So it's like you get woke up out of dead sleep to go do that shit. It's wild.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many calls that I go on. A lot of them, the ones that are like crazy calls, is like sometimes we get you're around people during a very sensitive time. You work with different cultures, different walks of life. Some people can be overzealous. Some people can be overly emotional. Some people can be really quiet and you get creeped out by them. So you always have to be on your toes and watch out for like violence, warning signs, red flags, stuff like that. And I've had some close calls. I've been in the middle of being attacked racially, and it's crazy. It's the most weirdest, awkward shit. And I feel so bad for people that have had to deal with that their whole life. And
we don't have to go too deep into it, but I remember you calling after that happened. And it is sad, man, because you have culture and you have, 150 years of culture on both sides, and trying to do the right thing. And for get caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I mean, and right now with everything going on in our country and our world, like, everybody's uneasy. There's a lot of civil and racial stuff that's just on the nose and on everybody's mind, and like, so it gets kind of crazy. But violence, guns, threats, like it happens. So like it's just weird to think that literally every call's different. I mean, except for like the hospice, hospital, morgue. That's all the same shit. But like going to house calls, oh yeah, it's awkward. You know, it's you never know what you're going to go into.
Jesus, man. Which is why sometimes I get a call at 1 a.m. from you.
Yeah.
Just decompressing a little bit, which honestly, like, jokes aside, I do appreciate you calling, you know, because that's some of that stuff you've had to get out.
Yeah, that's,
you know, it's pretty intense, and I'm the safe space and the morbidly curious person who, you know, I'll never judge when you call me and tell me some of the shit that you've come across, because fuck.
Yeah.
That's why people go to, confession. You can't keep stuff inside, you know. All right, that's a great place to hit the pause button for now. I just want to say again, thanks, Steve, for sitting down and talking to Preston and I about this and kind of sharing intimately what you do for a living now as a mortuary driver. Now, next episode, we will conclude the interview we had with Steven, but for now, if you're on the social medias, you know the drill, please give us a follow on Instagram, PXL Paranormal. If you're on Facebook, check us out, the Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. We're also on YouTube, check that out. We're up to 171 listeners, pretty exciting stuff. And if you have a beard, know a beard, or want to grow a beard, please check out BigDomsBeardBalm.com. Use our promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your entire order. And if you're in the Wichita area, please stop by and see our dear friend Leslie and the rest of the gang at the CD Trade Post Pawnee and Seneca. On behalf of Preston and Steven, I would like to say cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us that love to talk about it. And for Preston, stay spooky and stay on the Paranormal Highway.
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Pixelated Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down the paranormal highway. If you'd like to share your own listener story, we would love to hear it. Email us at pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.